and welcome to IBI, India Business Insights. Highlighting the key points of the new Digital Data Protection Bill 2022, we have today a very special guest joining us, Mrs. Vinita Sahitya. She's a corporate lawyer and a company secretary with over 14 years of professional experience in legal advisory, commercial contracts, transactions, insolvency, and dispute resolution. She is a partner in the chambers of Ranjan and Indraneel, and we are really excited to host her today. But before we go ahead, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to India Business Insights. So thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today and giving us your valuable time.
Thanks, Disha, for having me. It's a pleasure for me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope that whatever discussions we are going to have and whatever you are going to talk about, the key highlights, that's going to be really valuable for our viewers, and it will help them in the deeper understanding about the new bill as well. So welcome, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Certainly, the new bill is very relevant, in fact, for every kind of business that is operating in India. And the thing is that while going through the bill itself, we kind of understand as to why this bill was earlier withdrawn. The few aspects which I would like to highlight is, one thing is that a clear attempt has been made to make the law very simple, so that even a common person can understand it, because the ultimate objective is nothing but to protect the personal data of the individuals. Correct. So that's why that very good attempt has been made. But yes, it should not become unambiguous, ambiguous in near future. And we will have more details once the rules are laid down by the central government, because there are a lot of places where the central government has reserved rights to prescribe things by way of rules. That is one aspect. The other thing is that when the earlier bill was being discussed and deliberated upon, there were a lot of contentious issues which received a lot of criticism and opposition from the tech companies and other players in the market. For instance, data localization was one of the very onerous requirement for many tech companies. Basis the kind of data they process, whether it was sensitive personal data or critical personal data, which was not defined by that time. In some cases, it would have meant transferring the entire server to India, which would have become practically impossible for certain businesses. So now, to a big relief to those concerns, that data localization requirement has been done away with. Now the approach of the government is to allow data transfer to the nations which are trusted by us, basis several factors, which to my mind could be whether those jurisdictions have a proper data protection regime or not, and other factors. Other factor could be whether, in case of any cyber crime or these things, whether we would be able to procure that data relate from those jurisdictions. So that is other thing. The other contentious issue was very wide exemptions being given to the government agencies. That has also been done away with, and it has been laid down that only specific exemptions would be given to the government agencies, and that too on limited grounds, whether it is national security or public order, like that. Another interesting thing is that since we are a developing nation, so research and development is a very important area for us. So that part is also kept in the bill, that the government can notify, can exempt any, the provisions of law for the purpose of taking research and development in this field, provided that that is not specific to a particular individual. So far as we are not breaching their privacy, those activities will be allowed. The second most important thing is that since a lot of measures are being made by the government of India across India, to boost innovation and create a conducive startup ecosystem. So there is a provision here in this bill also that the government can exempt certain entities from from complying with this law for certain. I'm sure it will be limited for it will be for a limited period of time. That is other thing. The other aspect could be that, the earlier bill was talking about non-personal data uh, and anonymous data also. But this particular bill is not talking about, is completely focusing only on personal data that is there. And having a law without the punitive measures is like, not having a law at all. Like we have seen in our earlier, I'm sorry, like the existing laws which are there. So the penalties range from 50 crores to 250 crores, which can go to the extent of 500 crores for each instance. To my mind, this provision is little subjective. Without the punitive measures is like, because for a smaller company, these amounts may be very big. But for larger tech companies, these numbers could be nothing, compared to the kind of value that they are getting from not complying. Because as we know, data is a new oil. So that is one of the concern. The other important highlight could be that, as the name of the bill itself is Digital Data Protection Bill. Earlier it was Data Protection Bill. So many would believe that, it is just the digital data which is being protected, but it is not true. Because the bill says that, of course, it will apply to data which is collected online and which is processed online. But at the same time, it will also apply to data which is, even though collected physically, but then later digitized. So that is one important highlight. The concern probably to this provision that, whatever the manner of sharing, using and processing data could be, it should not make difference whether it is being done physically or online mode. So right to privacy is there. It is not limited to, it should not be limited whether it is online or offline. So that is the other highlight. The another important thing which I feel is that, this bill contains provisions which governs the entire life cycle of a data, starting from the point when it is collected to the point when it should be removed from the records. And the control is being given to the user, who can at the first place give his consent, correct his data, know what is being done with his data, and then finally, if he decides, he can withdraw that consent, so that that data is no longer then used, barring few exceptions. So that is one important aspect of this data, which meets the objective. There is slight difference in this bill compared to the earlier versions. There is a concept of deemed consent here in the new bill, which says that which covers the scenario wherein you give data and it can be deemed that you have given that data with the understanding that it will be used for certain purpose, which I think is gives a lot of breathing space to the businesses so that they can function and they can grow, particularly the businesses which thrive on data. So the cases could be like the example which is given in the bill itself. Like, for example, if I call a hotel and make a reservation, so there's a deemed consent that I'm giving my number and my name to be used for the purposes of making the reservation. Similarly, if an employee is giving a biometric data to its employer, so there's a deemed consent that, it will be used for recording the attendance. So that is a new concept, and in fact, it's a very welcome change, because it will provide the much needed breather for to the employer, because a lot of things, because not everything happens on paper. That is the other thing. And there is one more important aspect in this bill. This bill, for the first time, talks about the duties of individuals while they exercise their rights. So the one of the duties, they should not be giving any wrong information, and wherever they are seeking any correction of their data, it should be authentic one. Since companies are obligated to resolve all their grievances, so they should not be raising any false grievance. And uh, and if any user or any individual doesn't comply with these requirements, the law also provides penalties. So that also is a welcome move, I believe. And apart from that, there are uh, the provisions which were there earlier also, that the companies are required to have proper security measures. They have to make sure that they have proper grievance mechanism system in place. And the difference is that there is a new concept of significant data fiduciary, which will be decided basis the number of users and the kind of data they collect. And those entities will be having more responsibilities compared to a normal business entity. For instance, they will be required to have data protection officer. They will also be required to have independent data auditor, so like that. So this also is a kind of change which makes a clear distinction as to a normal business enterprise with these significant data fiduciaries who may cause more harm to the users. So they should be having more obligations, and the businesses which are small, or they should be given a free hand, so that they can have their own security measures, they can have their own grievance uh, redressal mechanisms. As we understand, the bill was withdrawn 3 months back, and the kind of bill that we see now is clearly indicates as to why it was withdrawn. Firstly, a lot of, apart from the fact that an attempt has been made to simplify the law, and also to plug in all the contentious issues and to put it right, there is one more important aspect to it, that this particular bill seems to be part of a larger vision of the government, to which vision is to transform India into a digital India, wherein we'll have a proper infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and we'll deliver services digitally, and to finally become a $5 trillion economy. That is other thing. The other aspect is that the earlier bill talked about non-personal data, anonymous data, which government could take whenever they want. But this particular bill is not talking about it. So, which to my mind, is that that particular aspect probably would either be covered in the telecommunication bill or in the Digital India Act, which are also in the making, so that we have the entire framework uh, put in such a manner that there are no overlapping provisions, because the digital world doesn't just pose risk to privacy, but there are other concerns also which we have to address. So these are the few highlights of the data protection bill that we have.
So, ma'am, it can be very well said that what the earlier bill that was withdrawn, it was withdrawn for the better, because there are a lot of new elements that are added, right, ma'am?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So it also shows that there are obligations on common individuals now that we have to comply to. So I
Yes.
think it impacts each and every individual, and it's very important for us also to be aware of that fact. So along with that, ma'am, if you could just highlight if how is this bill, how is it going to differ from global laws such as the GDPR and other existing Indian laws that we have?
when we started making this law, so our law was basically, drawn from the principles of GDPR law. So, but an attempt has been made to, customize it for Indian scenario from the context that, while we have to protect the personal data and privacy of individuals, but at the same time, we have to understand that there is a genuine need to use that personal data for a lawful purpose so that we don't kill innovation and we allow businesses to function in a normal manner, of course, within the contours of law. So, this is how the law has been customized to meet the Indian requirements. Insofar as the difference between Indian existing laws and this new proposed bill is that the earlier regime which was there was mainly covered in the Information Technology Act, and it only talked about sensitive personal data, whereas in the new bill the definition of data is very wide. Any data through which you can identify an individual, so that is very wide. It is not just limited to sensitive personal data. The existing law only has very minimum compliances, but new data protection will impose bigger obligations on the companies depending on their size and everything, to make sure that they collect data and have proper security systems so that the data is not misused and is not leaked, and these things. The other important difference is that earlier also there was a provision that every company had to have grievance officer who had to resolve the disputes within a given time frame. But here in the new data protection bill, the grievance mechanism is still there, but the difference is that now we are going to have data protection board in place, which is digital by design as per the bill, and which will resolve any grievances which are not resolved by the companies through their grievance mechanism, which is there. And it makes perfect sense because when everything is happening digital, and everything is happening on a click of a button, so our grievances should also be resolved in a digital manner, because not everybody can go to courts to enforce their rights. So that is the difference. The other difference is that the existing law does talks about the transfer of data outside India. It allows that, provided that data is kept secured and it is required for a lawful purpose and consent is being taken. But here in the new bill, as I said, that the government's approach is that data transfer would be allowed to the countries which are notified by the government, which are then trusted by us, so that we can make sure that our data remains safe even in those jurisdictions. That is other thing. The another difference could be that the existing law doesn't different creates any different types of data fiduciaries, but the new bill has a new concept of significant data fiduciary. The other important aspect is that the proposed law will also apply even if the processing of personal data is taking place outside India, if that processing is for the purpose of either profiling or selling goods and services in India. So the bill is broader than what our existing law is covers. So that is the thing.
All right, ma'am. I think all of these doubts were in a lot of people's mind as to what the new data, as to what the new bill holds, etc. And this conversation with you was really insightful. I hope it's going to be really, really helpful to our viewers as well. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving your valuable time. We thank you from India Business Insights.
Thank you. My pleasure.